Look, Jacob stood in front of the bathroom mirror, water dripping from his face, and stared at the tired eyes looking back at him. He had big dreams once, dreams that used to make him feel alive. But somewhere between yesterday's excuses and today's doubts, they'd started to fade. Every morning, the same battle replayed itself. Should he take action, or wait until tomorrow? The problem was, tomorrow never came. That morning, something in Jacob shifted. He remembered a line he'd once read in an old, weathered book by Napoleon Hill. "The man who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers a city." The words felt heavy, like they were meant for him. For years, Jacob thought his biggest challenge was the world, his boss, his bills, his circumstances. But standing there, he realized the truth. His biggest challenge was the man staring back at him. Jacob wasn't lazy. He wasn't weak. He simply had a silent enemy inside him, one that hesitated, doubted, and delayed. It was the part of him that whispered, "You can start later. You're not ready. You're not good enough." And that voice had been winning far too many mornings. Napoleon Hill taught that the greatest victory in life is not over other people, but over yourself. The real enemy isn't outside. It lives within your fear, your hesitation, your self-imposed limits. Jacob began to wonder, what would happen if I fought that enemy and won? That day, he made a quiet promise. No one else heard it, but it was a contract with himself. "From now on, I will choose discipline over comfort, action over excuses, growth over ease." The first test came quickly. Jacob had promised himself for months that he'd get in shape. He always told himself, "I'll start on Monday." But Mondays came and went like leaves in the wind. That afternoon, he came home from work, tired as usual. The old voice spoke up. "You had a long day. Rest. You can start tomorrow." But this time, Jacob ignored it. He laced up his sneakers, stepped outside, and began to walk. Just a short walk, nothing heroic. But for the first time in years, he didn't break a promise to himself. It felt small, but it felt powerful. That night, he thought about something Hill had written. Success is a series of small victories over yourself. Winning the inner battle doesn't happen in one grand moment. It happens in quiet, ordinary choices. It's when you wake up when you say you will. It's when you keep working after the excitement fades. It's when you finish the job, even when no one's watching. Jacob decided he would start stacking small wins. The next morning, he got out of bed the moment his alarm rang. No snooze button. That day at work, he finished the report he had been putting off for weeks. When he came home, he walked again, this time a little farther. With each small victory, something strange began to happen. The voice of doubt grew quieter. The voice that said, "You can't," grew stronger. One evening, Jacob met his old friend, Daniel, for coffee. Daniel complained about his job, his health, and how everyone else seemed to have better luck. Jacob listened quietly and then said, "You know, the only competition that matters is the one you face in the mirror. Beat that guy, and you can beat anything." Daniel chuckled. "Easier said than done?" Jacob smiled. "It's not about easy. It's about showing up. Every day." Hill's words became Jacob's compass. You don't have to beat the whole world. You just have to beat the old version of yourself. And each day, Jacob noticed something. When he kept his promises to himself, he walked taller. He thought clearer. He felt lighter. Soon, he started setting goals that actually mattered. Not the kind you write down to impress people, but the kind that come from deep inside. He stopped saying, "I want to get in shape," and started saying, "I want to feel strong so I can play with my kids without getting winded." That shift gave his goals meaning, and meaning gave him power. One weekend, Jacob's sister asked him, "What changed with you?" He thought for a moment and said, "I stopped lying to myself. I stopped saying tomorrow and started saying now. And I learned that the person I had to beat was me." That night, Jacob wrote in his journal, "The inner battle is won in the small choices. When you push through fear, when you finish what you start, when you speak kindly to yourself instead of tearing yourself down. I'm not perfect, but I'm winning more days than I'm losing. And that's enough to change my life. The truth is, most people will spend their lives trying to be better than someone else. But greatness doesn't come from beating others. It comes from beating the version of yourself that gives in too easily, that lets fear make the decisions, that waits for the perfect time. Jacob's journey wasn't about perfection, it was about progress. And in the weeks ahead, he would discover that mastering himself was the doorway to a life far bigger than he imagined. Because when you win the battle in the mirror, the world outside starts to change too. Napoleon Hill's lesson for you: the only real competition you will ever face is yourself. Beat that person, and you unlock a strength greater than talent, greater than luck. The road to greatness begins the day you decide to win the inner battle, one small victory at a time. Part 2. The fire that keeps you standing. Hook. It was late in the evening, and Jacob sat alone at his kitchen table, a cup of coffee going cold in his hands. The room was quiet, but his thoughts were loud. He thought about the past year, his small wins, his new habits, and realized something important. Believing in himself hadn't made the road easier. He had still stumbled. He had still fallen. But each time, he had gotten back up. Napoleon Hill once said, "What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But Jacob was learning that belief wasn't about never falling. It was about rising every time he did. When Jacob first started his journey, he thought self-belief meant feeling confident all the time. He imagined a day when the doubts would disappear and fear would be gone. But the truth was, fear still showed up, sometimes every day. The difference now was that he didn't let it stop him. He learned that belief grows in small steps. Keeping his word to himself. Trying even when his hands shook. Speaking kindly to himself when things went wrong. The strongest belief, he realized, comes from inside, not from applause, not from approval. And when you build that inner belief, nothing, fear, failure, or doubt, can close the door on your future. One morning, Jacob's belief was tested in a way he didn't expect. A project at work, one he had poured weeks into, fell apart. The client backed out, the deal was gone, and Jacob felt like all his effort had been for nothing. That night, he sat on his porch, staring into the dark, and thought, what's the point? Then, a memory came to him, his father teaching him how to ride a bike. He remembered falling over and over, scraping his knees, wanting to quit. But his father had smiled and said, "You don't have to be strong all the time, son. You just have to keep getting back up." That was resilience. Resilience, Jacob discovered, wasn't about pretending everything was fine. It wasn't smiling through pain or acting like the storm wasn't real. It was about refusing to quit. He thought of a young man he once knew in school, a quiet, determined guy named Chris who dreamed of becoming a teacher. Chris worked for years, studied hard, and finally applied for his dream job. He didn't get it. Many would have walked away, thinking, maybe I'm not good enough. But Chris didn't. He asked mentors for advice, improved his skills, and tried again. Months later, he got the job. The difference wasn't talent. It was resilience. Jacob began to see resilience everywhere. In the trees that bent in the wind instead of breaking, in the runners who finished the race even when they came in last, in the single mother at his church who worked 2 jobs but still made time to help others. Resilience was quiet, steady, and built one choice at a time. It grew when you finished what you started, when you spoke kindly to yourself after failing, when you were patient with your own progress. Life, Jacob realized, was like the wind. You couldn't stop it from blowing, but you could decide how to stand in it. Weeks later, another lesson came, this one about passion. Jacob met an older woman named Maria at the local hardware store. She had calloused hands and a warm smile. They got to talking, and she told him she owned a small woodworking shop in town. "I wasn't always a woodworker," she said. "I worked dozens of jobs over the years. I was good at them, but I never felt alive." She told Jacob how, one day, she helped a neighbor fix a broken chair. She had never built anything before, But the moment she sanded the wood and felt its smooth surface, she felt something inside her light up. She started learning woodworking at night, just for herself. Years later, she opened her shop, not to get rich, but because she wanted to spend her days doing what she loved. Jacob walked away from that conversation thinking about his own life. He had always believed passion was for artists or musicians. But Marie's story proved that passion could be found anywhere: teaching, cooking, farming, helping others, solving problems. Passion wasn't about the job title. It was about the feeling it gave you, the way it made you lose track of time, the way it filled you with energy even when you were tired. He realized that passion often starts quietly. It's not a roaring fire from the beginning, it's a small spark, something you enjoy without even thinking about it. The more you do it, the stronger it burns. That night, Jacob wrote 3 things in his journal. 1. Believe in yourself enough to rise after every fall. 2. Build resilience by refusing to quit, no matter how many times you're knocked down. 3. Follow the sparks that light you up. They may lead to your passion. He didn't know exactly where the road would take him, but he knew this. With belief, resilience, and passion, there was nothing he couldn't face. Napoleon Hill had been right. The mind that believes is unstoppable. But now Jacob understood something even deeper. The heart that refuses to quit is unbreakable. Napoleon Hill's lesson for you: your journey will not be free from falls. But belief, resilience, and passion will carry you through storms. Stand up one more time than you fall, and follow what makes you feel alive. That is the foundation of lasting success. Next, in part 3, Jacob will face a moment where all 3, belief, resilience, and passion, are tested at once, and he'll discover the power of adaptability when life changes without warning. Here's the revised part 3 in a consistent, polished form, keeping the warmth, flow, and clarity intact while smoothing out structure and transitions. 6. Learn and adapt. Daily life is always changing. What worked yesterday might not work today. The world keeps moving, and if we want to keep up, we must grow with it. Learning and adapting are not just for school or work, they are part of living a full and meaningful life. Every day brings something new. Some days bring lessons through success. Other days bring lessons through failure. But every day teaches, if we are willing to listen. You don't need a classroom or fancy tools to learn. You learn by asking questions, trying new things, listening to people with different views, and watching how others navigate life. Even mistakes can be powerful teachers. In fact, some of the best lessons come from falling down and getting back up again. Adaptation means being open to change. Just because something has always been done a certain way doesn't mean it must stay that way forever. Sometimes the best path forward is a new one, even if it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. There was once a man who ran a small shop. For years, his business did well using the same methods. But over time, customers stopped coming. At first, he blamed the economy. Then, he decided to adapt. He asked customers what they really needed, updated his products, changed how he spoke to people, and refreshed the look of his shop. Slowly, the business began to grow again. He didn't just wait for better days. He learned, adapted, and moved forward. Growth doesn't require huge changes overnight. It's about staying open and curious. Ask yourself, what did I learn today? What could I do better tomorrow? Some days you'll learn something about your work. Other days about yourself, your habits, reactions, or thoughts. Learning builds confidence. When you know you can figure things out, you stop fearing change. You trust yourself in new situations. Adapting also means letting go of what no longer serves you. Old ways of thinking, bad habits, or patterns that keep you stuck. Like a tree shedding its leaves in autumn, letting go isn't about loss. It's about making space for new growth. The people who grow most in life aren't always the fastest, strongest, or smartest. They are the ones who keep learning and adapting. They stay curious, try, fail, adjust, and keep moving forward. Don't wait for life to force change upon you. Choose to grow. Choose to learn. Choose to adapt. Every single day. 7. protect your environment. Look around you. The people you talk to, the places you spend time in, the things you listen to and focus on, these form your environment. Whether you realize it or not, your environment shapes who you become. It can help you grow, or it can hold you back. If you plant a healthy seed in dry, cracked soil with no sunlight, it will struggle to grow. But plant that same seed in rich soil, with light and water, and it will thrive. You are that seed. You have the potential to grow strong and bloom into something beautiful. But you need the right surroundings. When you spend time around people who constantly complain, give up easily, or mock your dreams, you start to absorb their energy. Their words become your thoughts. Their habits become your habits. Without noticing, you may shrink yourself to fit their world. But when you surround yourself with people who believe in you, challenge you, and lift you up, you rise. You feel braver. You aim higher. You begin to see more in yourself because they see more in you. There was a young man who dreamed of building something of his own. His close friends told him it was a waste of time. People like us don't do things like that. For a while, he believed them, until he met someone who had built a small business through determination. This new friend encouraged him, shared guidance, and believed in his dream. The young man started spending more time with supportive people, worked harder, and step by step, brought his dream to life. You don't have to cut people off completely, but you must be careful about who gets close to your time, your heart, and your dreams. It's not just people, places matter too. A messy, noisy, or stressful environment makes it harder to think clearly. But a clean, calm space can bring peace and focus. Even small changes, opening a window, tidying your desk, adding something that brings you joy, can transform how you feel. Protecting your environment also means guarding what you feed your mind. The conversations you join, the stories you hear, and the thoughts you repeat all shape your reality. If you constantly absorb fear, anger, or doubt, hope becomes harder to hold. But if you fill your life with truth, encouragement, and learning, you grow stronger each day. Your environment is the ground where your future grows. If it's full of weeds, pull them out. If it's dry, give it water. You may not control everything around you, but you can choose better. Build a world that supports your dreams. Surround yourself with people and places that lift you higher. When your environment rises, so do you. 8. Master your time. We all get the same 24 hours each day. No more, no less. Yet some people make steady progress and live with purpose, while others feel rushed, tired, and behind. The difference is not time itself, it's how they use it. Time is like water in your hands. If you don't hold it carefully, it slips away. Once it's gone, you can't get it back. Often, people say they don't have enough time. But the real issue is not time, it's direction. Without clarity on what matters most, everything feels urgent. You end up busy but not truly moving forward. When you know your priorities, you can focus your hours on what matters most. One man discovered this truth after tracking his time for a week. He was shocked to see how much went into tasks that didn't help him grow. So, he changed his routine, starting each morning with clear priorities, dedicating more time to important goals, and saying no to distractions. Within months, his life looked completely different, not because he had more time, but because he used it better. Mastering time doesn't mean filling every minute with work. Rest is not wasted time. It's how you recharge your mind and body so you can keep going. Even short breaks, peaceful moments, or a good night's sleep make you more effective. It also means learning to say no. Every yes to something unimportant is a no to something that matters. Protect your time like something precious, because it is. Begin each day by asking, what matters most today? What small step will move me forward? One task done with focus is worth more than 10 done in a rush. Time used with purpose brings peace. Days spent with intention add up to a life you can feel proud of. Time moves forward whether you use it well or not, so spend it on people you love, work that matters, and dreams that inspire you. 9. Lead with gratitude. Gratitude is quiet power. It lifts your spirit, calms your mind, and brings light even to difficult days. When you lead with gratitude, You change how you see the world, and how the world responds to you. Many focus only on what's missing, what went wrong, or what others have that they don't. This thinking breeds restlessness and discontent. But gratitude shifts the focus to what's already here: health, a warm bed, food to eat, someone who cares. These may seem small, but they are treasures. A thankful heart doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means facing them with courage, knowing there's still something good to hold on to. One woman, after losing her job, home, and sense of safety, began writing down one thing she was thankful for each morning: sunshine, a stranger's kindness, a hot meal. At first, it felt small, but over time, her hope returned. Gratitude became the foundation she rebuilt her life on. When you're grateful, you become more patient, kind, and generous. You stop comparing yourself to others. You speak more gently. You listen more fully. You love more deeply. Gratitude is most powerful in hard times. On the days when nothing feels right, it becomes your anchor, reminding you that storms pass and beauty remains. You don't need anything special to practice it, just awareness. Notice the small blessings: a smile, a meal, a breath. The more you notice, the more blessings you'll see. Gratitude doesn't change the world outside you. It changes the way you see it, and that changes everything. 10. Take the first step. Many wait for the perfect moment to begin something new: more time, more money, more confidence. They wait for fear to vanish or for a sign to appear. But the truth is, there is no perfect moment. The best time to begin is now. The first step is often the hardest. You don't know what will happen. You wonder if you'll fail or be judged. These thoughts can feel heavy enough to keep you still. But if you wait too long, life passes by and your dreams remain locked inside. Starting doesn't have to mean something big. It can be a short walk, a single page written, one small habit, one brave choice. Little steps matter. They build momentum. They strengthen your belief in yourself. Once you start, the next step feels easier. Confidence grows not from thinking about action, but from taking it. The path ahead will never be perfectly clear. But clarity often comes after you move, not before. So begin. Take the first step, however small. That step can change everything. Unshakable, Part 41889. Mexico City. The streets of Mexico City felt colder that winter, even though snow never touched its cobblestones. People hurried past each other without making eye contact. Whispers about missing girls were no longer just rumors. They were warnings. In the cramped boarding house on Calle de la Soledad, Guadalupe Martinez de Bejarano sat at a small wooden table, her face calm, her hands busy. She was stitching the hem of a faded dress while humming a tune from her childhood. On the surface, she looked like any other woman trying to make a living. But behind those calm eyes, thoughts darker than night brewed. The room smelled faintly of boiled herbs and something metallic. Something that made visitors' stomachs tighten without knowing why. A tin cup sat on the table, its contents black and bitter. Across from her sat Rosa, a girl no older than 16. She was thin, with soft brown eyes that still carried hope. She had come to Guadalupe because she'd been promised work and a place to stay. Guadalupe had found her in the marketplace, selling flowers for a few coins. "You're a hard worker, I can see that," Guadalupe said softly. "If you follow my rules, you will never go hungry." Rosa nodded eagerly. "I'll do anything, Senora." Guadalupe's smile was small but sharp, like a blade hidden in cloth. "Good. First, you must drink this tea. It is my welcome gift. It cleans the body and prepares you for a new life." Rosa hesitated. The steam from the cup carried a bitter smell that made her throat tighten. "It smells strange. It is an old family recipe," Guadalupe said, her voice smooth as oil. "I drink it every morning." Rosa lifted the cup with both hands and took a small sip. The taste was worse than the smell, sharp and earthy, with a trace of iron. She coughed, but Guadalupe's steady gaze held her there until the cup was empty. Within minutes, Rosa's head felt heavy. The edges of the room blurred. She tried to stand, but her knees trembled. "You're tired," Guadalupe said, rising to her feet. "You need rest. Follow me." The girl's vision swam as she was led down a narrow hallway to a back room. The walls here were bare, the only furniture a thin mattress on the floor. A single oil lamp flickered in the corner, casting shadows that seemed too tall, too thin. Rosa lay down, her heartbeat loud in her ears. She heard the soft click of a lock turning. Guadalupe returned to the kitchen, her face as calm as when she had been sewing. She began grinding something in a small stone mortar. Dried leaves, a pinch of white powder, a drop of thick brown liquid. The air in the room grew heavy. Hours passed. When Rosa awoke, her throat burned, and her limbs felt weak. She could hear muffled voices in the next room. Guadalupe speaking to a man whose voice was deep and impatient. "You bring me another one and I'll pay," the man said. "This one will be ready soon," Guadalupe replied. The floorboards creaked as the man left. Rosa's heart pounded. Something was terribly wrong. She tried to stand, but the dizziness came back like a wave. Then she noticed it. Beneath the thin mattress, her fingers touched something smooth and cold. She pulled it out just enough to see. It was a small silver hair comb, bent and missing 2 teeth. It did not belong to her. She shoved it back quickly as footsteps approached. The lock turned again. Guadalupe stepped in, carrying a small bowl of broth. "You must eat to get your strength back," she said, setting the bowl down. Rosa tried to speak, but her mouth felt dry. I want to go home." Guadalupe's smile was almost kind. "You have no home now. You belong here." The words sent a shiver through Rosa's bones. That night, as the oil lamp flickered low, she heard the faintest sound, scratching, as if nails dragged along wood. She thought it was coming from the other side of the wall. Then came a whisper, so faint she wasn't sure it was real. "Don't drink anything." Her breath caught. "Who's there?" she whispered back. No answer came. Only silence, and then the soft creak of the hallway floorboards as someone moved closer to her door. The next morning, the city awoke to the cry of church bells. Somewhere, a mother lit a candle for her missing daughter. Somewhere else, a man told his wife not to walk alone after dark. But in the small, locked room at the back of Guadalupe's house, Rosa understood something with cold clarity. She had walked into a place where people entered quietly and never left the same. And outside, in the crowded streets, no one knew how close they were to La Temable. The Henderson Twins, Part 5. Inch the voice in the attic. The next day, the house was strangely quiet. The storm from the night before had passed, leaving the sky pale and still. But the silence inside the Henderson house was different, heavy, almost expectant. Eleanor sat at the kitchen table, staring at her untouched breakfast. "I heard it again," she whispered. Margaret froze. "Heard what?" "That voice, in the attic. It was calling my name." Eleanor's eyes were wide, glassy. Margaret shook her head. "You're still dreaming, Ellie. It's just the wind." But deep down, she wasn't sure. She had heard faint noises herself, scratching, soft thumps above her room at night. She told herself it was just old wood settling. Now she wasn't so sure. Their father, William Henderson, noticed their unease. "Girls," he said firmly, "you will stay away from that attic. I don't care what you think you hear up there." "Why?" Margaret asked. William's jaw tightened. "Because there are things best left alone. Do you understand?" Neither twin answered. That night, Margaret woke to the sound of footsteps above her bed. Slow, deliberate. Her breath caught in her throat. She counted the steps. 1, 2, 3, then silence. She waited, heart pounding. And then she heard it. "Margaret!" The voice was low, almost a hiss, but unmistakable. She shot out of bed, clutching her blanket, and ran to Eleanor's room. "Ellie, wake up!" Eleanor stirred, her face pale. "I heard it too." The sisters sat together until dawn, listening to the occasional creak above their heads. Neither dared go upstairs. The next day, curiosity got the better of them. When their parents left to visit a neighbor, Margaret whispered, "We should look." Eleanor's face was a mask of fear. "Papa said Papa isn't here. And we need to know what's up there." They climbed the narrow staircase to the attic door. Dust floated in the sunlight that filtered through the small hall window. The door was locked. "See? We can't," Eleanor said quickly, ready to turn back. But Margaret knelt, inspecting the lock. She had seen her father open it once with a small brass key he kept on his watch chain. She also knew her mother's sewing basket held thin wires that could fit inside the keyhole. Within minutes, she had the lock clicking open. Eleanor grabbed her arm. "Margaret, please!" But Margaret pushed the door open. The attic smelled of dust and something else, sweet, but rotten. They stepped inside. Shafts of light broke through cracks in the roof, illuminating shapes under old sheets. Trunks, broken furniture, boxes stacked high. Margaret wandered deeper, her eyes scanning for anything unusual. Eleanor stayed close, clutching her sister's sleeve. In the far corner, half hidden under a moth-eaten blanket, stood an old rocking chair. It rocked gently, though there was no wind. Margaret's stomach nodded. "Did you know?" Eleanor whispered. Then they saw it. Carved into the wooden floor in front of the chair were letters. Not neat, but scratched deep into the boards, as if by something sharp. Eleanor's breath hitched. "Margaret, that's my name." The air in the attic grew colder. Somewhere behind them, something shifted. They turned, but nothing was there. Then came the sound. A soft laugh, right beside Eleanor's ear. She screamed, spinning around. "Nothing. Margaret, we have to go!" she cried, pulling her sister toward the door. But as they reached it, the door slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Margaret yanked at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "It's stuck!" The laugh came again, deeper now, almost mocking. They backed away, pressing against the wall. Suddenly, the rocking chair began to move faster. The blanket slid off, revealing its faded cushions. And in the seat, for just a moment, they saw it, a shadow, shaped like a person, but with no features. The shadow turned its head toward them. "Eleanor!" Margaret grabbed a wooden box from the floor and threw it at the chair. The shadow vanished. The box hit the seat, and the rocking stopped. The door burst open. Their father stood there, his face white with anger, or fear. "What did I tell you?" he shouted. The girls rushed past him, down the stairs, their legs trembling. That night, their father nailed the attic door shut. Neither girl slept. Margaret lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She could still hear faint creaks above her. But it wasn't the sound that kept her from sleep. It was the voice in her head, the memory of it calling Eleanor's name, over and over, as if it wanted her. And Margaret knew one thing for certain. Whatever lived in that attic wasn't done with them. The Thornfield Sisters, Part 6, Final. The storm hit Thornfield Manor that night like a living thing. Rain slammed against the windows. The wind howled through the halls. The old house creaked and groaned, as if it could feel what was coming. Isabel stood in the parlor, her candle shaking in her hand. Margaret's diary lay open on the table. The last page was stained with something dark, not ink. It read, "We are not sisters by birth. We are bound by something deeper, something taken, not given. If you are reading this, you are already too late." From the corner of the room, Anna whispered, "Do you hear it?" Isabel froze. The sound came again, soft footsteps, padding down the hallway toward them. Not hurried, not hesitant, steady, unstoppable. The door to the parlor creaked open. Margaret stood there. Only, it wasn't her. Her eyes were pure black, like wet stones. Her mouth was too wide, curling into a smile that didn't belong to a human face. Her dress clung to her body, soaked through as if she had just climbed out of a river. Her hair hung limp and dripping, though no water pooled on the floor. Anna stumbled back. "Margaret, what happened to you?" Margaret tilted her head, the movement sharp and unnatural. "I went where the rest of us went. You stayed behind." Isabel's candle flickered violently. The air in the room grew thick, damp, and cold. It smelled of rotting leaves and river mud. From behind Margaret, more shapes emerged in the hallway. Other girls, pale and silent, their dresses torn and damp, their hair plastered to their faces. The missing Thornfield sisters. They moved like shadows, but their eyes gleamed in the candlelight. Anna's voice shook. "What do you want from us?" Margaret's smile widened. "To finish the family. You don't get to leave." The candle in Isabel's hand went out. The room plunged into darkness. When Isabel's eyes adjusted, she realized the parlor was gone. She stood outside, in the rain. The manor was nowhere in sight. Around her, the woods stretched in every direction, black and endless. Anna stood beside her, clutching her arm. "Where are we?" Anna whispered. Margaret's voice came from behind them, though her lips didn't move. "You're home now." The sisters moved closer, circling. Their bare feet made no sound in the mud. The rain didn't seem to touch them. Anna screamed and tried to run, but the trees shifted, closing in, their twisted branches like reaching hands. Isabel grabbed her, but it was too late. One of the sisters seized Anna by the wrist, pulling her into the shadows. Her scream was cut short, swallowed by the storm. Isabel fell to her knees. She was alone now. Margaret stepped forward, crouching so close their faces almost touched. "You will understand soon," she whispered. Her breath was ice against Isabel's skin. "You were chosen because you belonged to us." Isabel's vision blurred. Her heartbeat slowed. The sound of the rain faded, replaced by a deep, rhythmic rushing, like the current of a river. The world tilted, and she felt herself being pulled downward. She woke to find herself back in the manor. The parlor was empty, the fire cold. A mirror hung on the far wall. She staggered toward it, and stopped. The reflection staring back at her was not her own. Her skin was pale. Her hair dripped with dark water. Her eyes were black. From behind her reflection, the other Thornfield sisters smiled. Isabel felt her lips curl into a smile too, not because she wanted to, but because she couldn't stop. And somewhere, deep inside, a voice whispered, "You are home." Call to action, YouTube. If you enjoyed the Thornfield sisters, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales, share this with a friend who loves horror, and leave a comment telling us your favorite part. Your support keeps the shadows alive.